because if anybody can do it, it's going to be me. I
Mhm.
really believe that the amount of experience that we gathered by doing what we did, copying and pasting and figuring out processes in all these different areas of around the United States has created a good amount of understanding of what is required, what works and what doesn't work. And now with the market that we have in today's world, one thing that is very clear to me is that the industry sucks.
JR, appreciate you coming through. We actually never officially met before today, so I reached out to you on Instagram, you local guy, and have a podcast yourself, and had some similarities, and figured get in, let you tell your story, and get to know you a little bit better. So appreciate you coming through. Why don't you just kind of start off and tell us about your hometown and everything about you, and well, what you're doing now, most importantly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ryan, for having me in the first place. I really appreciate the invitation. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been so my Jr. Rivera. I was born in Mexico. Actually, I'm a first generation immigrant. Came here in the United States when I was a child, and grew up for the most part in a small town, West Point, Nebraska. It's about 3,000 people, just about an hour north west of Omaha. And growing up, immigrant parents trying to figure things out. Uh, Graduated in '09, and as of then, my grades weren't the best. Like a lot of us, not hadn't really figured what I wanted in life, and I was ambitious, but I didn't have a sense of purpose, and I felt like the direction that I was going was definitely not a correct one. I'm glad that I caught that. And I always say that the thing that really saved me was I don't know, I don't even remember exactly what triggered it, but another person was joining the Marines, and and it triggered me to say, "Hey, F it, why not? Let's give it a shot." I joined the military. I went off to boot camp and tried that out, not knowing a single thing. I had no idea there was any swimming in the Marine Corps. I had no idea that there was. I was so naive, didn't understand how things worked really at that point in my life. But I knew that I wanted to do something significant. I just had no idea how to get there or what
Mhm.
that was. So I joined the military, experienced that. Hopped around obviously from training to training. Trained in Fort Knox, Kentucky, as a tank mechanic. Went back and got stationed in 29 Palms, good old stumps. Sounds tropical, but it's the middle of nowhere, California. A little bit of a hellhole. But I learned to love it and appreciate the people that you're working with. I heard a saying the other day. I think it went. I'm probably chop this out, but I think it was you don't necessarily love the circus, but you do miss the clowns,
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of that mix of people that we're talking a little bit before the podcast, the melting pot,
Yeah.
different cultures, ideas, individuals, but that don't really at the end of the day worry about that individualism. You worry about the mission, you worry about each other, you worry about the team. And I learned to love that. I
Yeah.
really learned to love that. So, was in the military for a while there. I did one push to Afghanistan as a completely different billet, different job, different with the same unit but different position with Motor T. And when I came back, I got put in as a training NCO. So, pretty quickly leading Marines as 20 years old. So definitely a game changer, I think, in my career. It kind of started, I feel like, my career in business because um, as weird as it sounds, there's so much of the same stuff that you learn from those experiences, being in charge of people, helping people, dealing with personalities, trying to figure out yourself at the same time, and making the decision of what's next as I was transitioning out. It was a kind of a daunting task to figure that out. But first things first, I had a kid and I decided to get married pretty quickly after. So the decision was where was I going to go after that? So I decided to move back here to Omaha, Nebraska, with my now ex-wife. Had a kid, started a family, and I was back into the Nebraska environment. And got into insurance out of kind of coincidence. It was just I was working as cashier part time as I was doing the GI Bill, using the GI Bill, going to UNO, getting my business degree, and met kind of OG of insurance here in town, good friend of mine, still a State Farm agent, gave me an opportunity, and I started working for him. He offered to me. I think it was on a Sunday. That next Monday at 7 a.m., I was in his office. He didn't open till 9, but I was there at the parking lot just waiting. I had no idea even the dress code or
Yeah.
anything. I showed up in cargo shorts and button up, thinking I was like, all right, let's figure this out right now. But I think he liked the purity and the, I guess, naiveness, and said, hey, there's something to this guy. He wants to do something here. And coincidence, I had the same last name as him, so maybe that helped. I don't know. But started in insurance then. That was in early 2015. So now about 11 years. And so that kind of started the career in insurance, and a few different developments. Now, I have an insurance agency, Accents Insurance, and for the most part, our agency focuses on providing services in a little bit different manner than the traditional agency. We're not the normal, I would say, big brand name, let the company logo do the selling for us. We're very proactive and relationship based. So we're really intricately entwined in the real estate transaction, which I think sets us apart in the way we talk to clients and the way we approach the sale and the way we provide the services. And then so our team also operates at a little bit different pace. So
So uh why'd you transition to that way of doing business versus I assume you were with State Farm for a while, staying
yeah.
with State Farm, letting the State Farm, the Allstate, the whatever big brand do the marketing for you, and people just show up and knock on your door.
Well, I saw the number one. I saw that I was losing a lot. You see that the writings on the wall. If you want to say it that way, it's you see the market changing, the industry changing, the industry shifting. It used to be that those big brand captive companies, as they're called in the industry, they used to hold a really large portion, well over 50% of the market. And now it's backwards to where the independent side is controlling the majority of the market. And they're, shrinking every year. And I think it's the number one, there's, I think, the other side of the spectrum, the insurances, the automated, everything online. For different personalities, you're going to get people that prefer that. The independent individuals, the ones that like the tech, the app, and don't want to talk to anybody else. But I think there's still a large portion of the population that still wants to hold somebody accountable, maybe have somebody to talk to, maybe ask for a suggestion, ask questions, and on a situational base, have somebody to go to. And not only that, but maybe provide multiple options at once, which where the brokerage model really comes into play. And so that space has really grown over the last few years. So I saw the writing on the wall. I saw where things were going. Not only that, but the pricing too. I saw their pricing really going up and up and up, and had a lot of trouble really getting my footing in the industry, and to where I was losing a lot to the independent agents. So I was like, all right, that's the way to go. And when I decided to jump and kind of create my own career, as I stepped away from that other agency, I knew that that was the direction that I was going to head, and I took it. That was 2019.
So you started in your new business in 2019, or did you just kind of go more independent from there? Just
So I partnered up with a real estate operation right
okay.
off the bat. There's an idea, a good friend of mine that's also in the industry, you know, big agency guy. We all kind of started from the same place. He was actually related to the agent that I was working with. He's his son-in-law, and he great guy. He was phenomenal at what he was doing with State Farm himself. And when he jumped, he decided to open up his own independent office. I was like, "What you doing, bro? What do you guys got going on? You guys are awesome. You guys have your stuff together." I mean, obviously they're figuring things out themselves because it was a brand new waters. You kind of have to figure things out, and there's no support. You got State Farm behind you, Allstate, American Family. They have huge support systems. The independents, nobody. It's you figure it out. You work with these carriers, but it's not the same.
Is it very much relationship based? Like you know, if I'm a carrier, you and I have a better relationship, or you do more volume on my carrier, you get a little bit better deal, or how's that work?
It, I mean, getting the it's a lot different market now. Back then, it didn't really matter. It was kind of a open market. You could get the appointments pretty easily. That was before the big storms of 21, 22, 23, and definitely 2024. But um, it wasn't so much that. I think it was just, um, I think really it's the approach. How you get the deals was the biggest hurdle.
Okay.
And one thing that I realized that annoying people and just cold calling and saying, "Hey, man, Ryan, can I quote your home and auto insurance?" doesn't go well with most people. So the approach was had to be different. I knew that to win and to get to more people, so that didn't sound nobody wants to be sold. Instead, you look for a trigger, and what the trigger we found was the real estate transaction.
Mm,
When people are buying a home, there's an opportunity, there's a necessity for it because most people are buying it with a mortgage, and what are the requirements is to get that homeowner's insurance. So that's where we step in. We create the relationships with the lenders, with the realtors, and we provide that as a service for the clients. Creates like a little ecosystem. So our approach is different. And because of that, the relationship with the client is different. We get to be more of a service instead of a sales. That creates a lot better longevity, a lot longer relationship with the clients, and which means a lot in a industry where residual income and book of business matters because that's kind of the industry that it is. We don't make a whole lot of commission based off the initial sale. It's really the longevity of the client that makes us that residual base as the book gets bigger and bigger and bigger from a business standpoint.
gotcha. Uh, what? So you went independent in 19 with partner or whatever, kind of under somebody. What made you step out and do? Just say, hey, I can do this
Yeah.
myself.
So I kind of got sidetracked there,
No,
but
you're fine.
2020, 2019, 2020, I think it was 2020 actually, the beginning of 2020, right as COVID, everything that was happening. Um, yeah, I mean it was a crazy time. I was actually going through a divorce at that time. A lot going on. I started learning how to be a single parent. Um, Everything was with COVID was happening. I think it was a big transition too in the industry uh, for a lot of industries. I think it was COVID, and the opportunity arose about this idea of partnering up with a real estate operation. They had an idea of bringing the services as an ancillary option for real estate operations around the country. And I thought, well, I can definitely give this a shot. Let's see if we can make this happen. And so I was kind of in charge of figuring out the systems and processes for that. And so I partnered up with those guys to see, hey, let's make it work. Well, we learned a lot. That was probably the most learning I've ever done, the biggest growth in my professional career was during those 3 to 4 years, 4 years that I was there. We created operations with relationships in Indiana, Ohio, South Carolina. It was like 9 different states, figuring out what they needed, what the market required, the competition, the opportunities, the failures, and everything else, and how to really do things and what doesn't work. We figured out that working in spaces like Scottsdale was phenomenal. The people were amazing, the relationships were amazing, and the transactions were there, but the premium was very low because there's no weather there. It's so cheap. You might have $1.5 million house for $900 a year for homeowners.
Mm,
It's like ideal for the clients, ideal for the transaction, but when you're making commissions, it's maybe twice the work for a third of the price. So you have to put that into your calculations, into your projections, into your what you do, and a lot of that was done as you go. So there's a misalignment. I feel like there's a lot of learning, but eventually that kept being the goal of the operation, and the vision was not aligning with my vision. I really wanted to focus on Oman. I felt like it was being left behind. So I had a ton of relationships here, and I felt like, well, I really want to focus on this, and um, and eventually it just decided we kind of just decided to part ways and step away, and I decided to go off on my own. Which a couple of the agents followed me, and we decided to kind of kick things off with Accent Insurance. That was in spring of 24. So realistically, we're fairly new, but in the market, I've been here doing this for 11 years now.
gotcha. So you started off going on, finishing up your second year, if you will. What's your goal as far as this? So, like we were talking before, like insurance is one of those things. Like if you're aspirational, I mean, you can just sell, a couple little pieces here and there, and not ever expand your book of business, or you can expand your book of business and really do well for yourself. What um, what's your take on that? Are you just trying to stay? I don't want to make Omaha sound like it's like you can't do anything here
Yeah,
because I mean we both have businesses in the area, but is it basically you just want to serve an Omaha area
great
and
question,
go?
and it's actually amazing timing because that's the question that we've been it's been on my head since the day we started. Because if anybody can do it, it's going to be me. I
Hmm.
really believe that the amount of experience that we gathered by doing what we did, copying and pasting and figuring out processes in all these different areas of around the United States has created a good amount of understanding of what is required, what works and what doesn't work. And now with the market that we have in today's world, one thing that is very clear to me is that the industry sucks. It like blatantly there is not a lot of good competition, and it baffles me everywhere I go that I start talking about. It's really about rates and weather. That's really what I believe is standing in the way of opportunity in this industry. Because if you understand the systems and how to make a successful agency work, and you are willing to take in that risk and go through the first couple of years of misery, is what I call it in the beginning of the stages, then the opportunities is just about is there for you to just copy and paste. That is my true belief, and that's what I have as a goal for our agency. We're now growing in this space. We're doubling in the first year. We had a pretty good year, but it wasn't anything substantial. And I doubled that the second year.
Mm.
So now the goal is for this third year to continue to double that, which now our relationships have grown and we're projected to do that. And I've done it over and over and over before with other agencies, so I know exactly how to do it. Now it's just about application. Because I've seen the writing on the wall and I know the process of how to make that the business grow that way. It's just about matter of doing a good job with the relationships that you have, and then doing what you said you're going to do with the clients that you're taking care of. That's really it. It's not that simple. It's not that hard. It's pretty simple. Unfortunately, but fortunately for us, we don't see that really being applied in insurance very often. Like I said, most people are still doing that they have that old mentality of, well, the residuals coming in. I'm doing pretty well, man. I'm just gonna go hit the golf course, and we'll be all right. We're still bringing in 200, $300,000 a year when the opportunity in the market is growing ever more every single year for the independent side, and they're not seeing that writing on the wall. They're not seeing that opportunity just dangling there. So we'll come in and do it. We'll come in and take it. It's just about us getting in front of enough people. That's really it. And operation obviously has grown. We, a little bit of a thing with our industry that we do have to hire a little bit ahead of time,
Hmm.
which is not anything that I've done before. I usually allowed myself to have that flexibility of hiring when I need to. But in this case, because I know how the industry works, I already have done it so many times. It's been easier to say, okay, it's about time right now. Time it up just in perfectly to be ready for that next couple of relationships that come in to handle that business. So
Awesome. You started off. You were talking about high school. And you said you were aspirational in high school, but you weren't necessarily focused, and uh, it was a struggle for you, or it could have led to struggles at least. You went to Marines. Do you feel like that has honed you? Like I'm trying to make an analogy to like the ADHD, like your scatterbrained ADHD,
mhm.
and it just helped you focus. Was that like the medicine that helped you and got you on the right path?
That was my life's Adderall.
Yeah.
That was literally it, man. Because it's hard to describe how much I feel that the Marine Corps saved, I guess, my path
Mhm.
and directed me in the way that, you never know. I could have figured, gotten my hat out of my rear, and got my stuff together, but it kind of expedited that process by bucket of cold water, slap in the face, get your shit together, kind
Yeah.
of. The biggest thing is that I always used to blame myself, like, oh, you're not, I'm just not that smart. I'm just not that good. My middle brother, is a year and a half younger than me, phenomenal at everything. Just that, crushing it in school, doing everything right. And I used to be like, man, this guy is just so smart. And he's just so good at what he does. And as I got older and I started realizing, like, no, he's just applied.
Yeah.
He just puts in the effort. He puts in the work. That's what was missing in my life. The I guess the sense of understanding in life that it doesn't come cheap, it doesn't come free, it doesn't come easy. And if it does, it's probably not worth it. And as long as you understand that, I feel like whatever it is that you apply that to, as long as you're not an idiot, you have the wrong kind of, and even if you have the wrong kind of plan, you can redirect and try it again. So that was really it. It was
Yeah.
the lack of application, the lack of discipline, and it rearranged my noggin to be like, hey man, do things with a little bit more sauce. Otherwise you're not gonna do shit. That's really it.
A lot of people bash the military, be like, "Oh, I was a tank mechanic. I was uh,
Grease monkey.
yeah, whatever it is. I was a grunt."
Yeah.
And they get out and they're like, "I don't have any skills." And me, I'm just like, now knowing what I know, I'm like, dude, you do not realize the entrepreneurial skills that the military gave you. You talked by 20 years old, you've gone to Afghanistan, you're
Mhm.
back, you're training NCO, like the level of responsibility they give you, you're leading men, we were talking before, like you're training NCO, leading 28-year-old people that have been to war multiple times, and you're leading up, like, because they probably outrank you.
Mhm.
They've got way more years, like they're probably 10 years, you're 2 years into the
Yeah.
service, and but yet you have to lead up and you have to get out of that comfort zone. And you got to help them get ready for the next deployment, and just the breeding ground that I think it is well, it's a hidden secret to people. I mean, kind of
Oh
like I
yeah.
said, we talked a little bit before about this, but kind of go into some of your experiences with that and how it's helped you.
Well, definitely the people skills, man. Figuring out how to make people move. You it's not as easy as it sounds, and I think the greatest challenge is probably that space where you got these people with enormous egos that in a very high testosterone environment that but yet the mission has to be completed and it's on you. How are you going to do that? How are you going to it starts about relationship building. It's all those skills, relationship building, um communication skills. Everything is developed um, during that huge amount of stress. Because I mean, that's how I felt like it was. It was a stressful environment, but being able to figure that out on a person to person basis. I mean, I can't tell you how valuable that is now. I mean, it's like patty cake now. You're working with individuals and nothing is that serious. There is no life and death. It's just different. Like Jocko Willink says, it's not necessarily you're dealing with people's lives, but you are dealing with people's livelihoods.
Hmm.
And that, I mean, that's one of my favorite books that, with Jocko, but it's once you take that and you still take it seriously, but you apply all that knowledge that you gained in the military. I feel like there's a level too that you can beat the average Joe because you simplify things a lot easier. There's no reason to overcomplicate things. If you break things down and make people, I forgot the gentleman that was here before. We were talking about just be in charge of a single thing
Hmm.
and have a certain level of responsibility themselves, even if they're pretty new. That small unit leadership mentality alone, that is something that you can be useful in any kind of unit or organization or team. But that sense of responsibility will build up an individual so that they can experience the same level of growth that I did. Maybe not to the extent of extremes, but they will experience some level of growth. And that's ultimately I feel like my job today as a leader, besides leading the company to the goals and achieving everything that we want to achieve, is individually improving those individuals as people as professionals, and we focus a lot on that individual aspect, self-development. We have team meetings every day, and then especially on once a week as a team for accountability purposes, and also as a individual growth factor to say, okay, where are we at? What are you guys doing? How are we doing on things? Obviously, with our one-on-ones on a monthly basis as well, but more of a personal level, seeing, okay, what are we doing as a team, but what are we doing individually to get to where we need to as a team, checking those boxes individually, if that makes sense. So just going individually first and then getting to the end result based on our individual action. um, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Ultimately, we all have that big goal, but if you break it down to small little baby sections, it's really, really simple. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that the military teaches you is how to break things down into very simple, edible bites.
Yeah, everything starts off with a big goal. When I first got into real estate, one of the podcasts I was listening to, Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets
Mm,
podcast, they were talking about this guy had to sell a car. It was, his personal car. He's trying to sell it. He's like, I don't know how to sell a car. He's like, but what do I do know how to do? I know how to take it to a car wash and wash it. Okay. So he drives through a car wash and he washes it.
mm,
Step one. Oh, well, the inside probably needs to be vacuumed. Then he clean it out and vacuum it. Step two. Like, you're already 2 steps into selling your car. He
yeah.
still probably doesn't know how to sell his car, but he knows what the next step is. He knows what's possible. And so it's chunking everything down. Like, we look at business. Oh, I want to have $1 million or $100 million business. Okay, well, you got nothing right now. How do you chunk? Like, it's great to have the goal, the big goal, but you have to chunk everything down. What's uh what's something that you've been able to do to make it make the goal seem more attainable, I guess?
Well, I like to really keep my focus on the immediate task at hand, and backwards planning is all we do. I mean, we obviously start with the
Mhm.
yearly projection goal. We have a yearly goal for individuals as well, like I was talking about. So everyone has their individual goals, professional and personal, and then we break the
Not to stop you,
yeah,
but do you make your agents have a personal goal as well?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I
We all we kind of mesh things into. We're very into, I guess, close team.
mm,
It's only six of us, and we really focus on helping each other out. We work very as a team in comparison to a lot of other agencies where each individual agent is their own agent.
mhm.
We're more of an operation. So I think that sets us apart from most agencies as well, to where everybody works on cases. Everybody has their own clients, but it's all kind of given because of the relationships that we have. So it's not like they're going out and negotiating things. That creates a very kind of team environment, which then all of us are kind of in each other's businesses. What are you doing to get better? Pushing each other, going, setting up times for going to the gym with each other. Setting up lunches with across the table, and even in the our setup, we have a big sales table for our sales team. Is all sitting together instead of individual office. I designed it that way. I didn't want individual offices. Number one, it gets kind of boring. I like the interaction aspect of it, but number two, the sharing of ideas and the accountability aspect is pretty legit. You kind of level up. You're talking about, like, what are other things that you can do? Well, you can hold somebody accountable if you can hear them, hear their conversation, and like, hey, next time don't say that. Next time maybe try saying this. And we're very direct. We're very personal, but we all understand that it's for the right reasons. We're trying to make each other better, and we have a lot of open conversations about that. So we do have those end of the year goals, and those end of the year goals get broken down into months, and those months get broken down to also into weeks, and those weeks get broken down to days, and we also understand what it takes for us to convert, how many calls, how many conversations, and how much premium that turns into equals commission, and commission, well, depends on the lifestyle that you want to live. But ultimately, it's about creating the right kind of flexibility in their lives that makes the most sense. Right now, we have our youngest guy that's still full time at UNO and somehow
Mm.
making it work full time with us as well. we're very flexible with the time, but as long as the mission is completed and it doesn't interfere with anything, to me, it's like, make it happen, man. And we will do the best that we can to help you achieve that. His other goal was to make it to a trip to Japan, and we're making that happen at the beginning of the year. So that's all these kinds of things. It's about keeping the right balance between our successes and the goals that I have and expectations I have for them, holding them accountable to the measures that I expect and I want for the office, while at the same time pulling them and making them grow. It's a difficult balance. Again, it's a beautiful dance that we all learned in the military. And I think we just overcomplicate it in our head. It's just about taking care of people.
Yeah.
That is ultimately, if you want to put it, Barney, that's literally it. Taking care of people, truly caring about the individuals that are carrying the weight and carrying you on their back. And that's ultimately what it's about.
I think what you just said is, I mean, not to overinflate it or whatever, but it really is a business masterclass, what you just said. Because, like, if you take care of the people, I always call it commander's intent. Like, going back to the military, like, I'll use, whether you agree with it or not, neither here nor there, but the operation in Venezuela, like, the intent was
Mhm.
to go in and get the guy. And the policymakers in Washington hands off at that time. Like, they
Yeah.
gave the intent of it. Then the military operated 150 aircraft, 20 different locations, Delta Force, CIA, boots on the ground. Like, they they just
Masterclass.
masterclassed it, and like, that's what the military does. And so,
Yeah.
like, you come from that, and so you see it on your own little, small group level or
Yeah.
whatever. But you just start amplifying that out, and I think what you just spelled out was like a masterclass of business. Like, we overcomplicate so much stuff, and like, give the commanders intent. That's what I always say. Like, I'm gonna give the commanders intent. Like, we're gonna record this podcast,
Yeah.
and I need it posted, on this date. And like, that's it. Like, I step out of the way after I'm done hitting record and posting it online.
Yep.
But the intent is there, and they know exactly what to do. And just, if we let people execute, you're talking about 20 years old leading, the training. Like, they got out of your way. They said, "Hey, we need you to do this," and they got out of your way. And I just think we, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, we think we're the only person that can do this one task, and we don't trust people to do it. And
You're hitting the nail right on the head. Getting out of our own way is half the battle.
yeah,
Sometimes it's hard to wrap our head around that crap, man, because we want to own things and we want to perfect things and we want to do things the way that we think it should be done. But a lot of times we have to let things happen. We have to let people make mistakes too and allow for that, calculate for that, even. The kid that I was talking to you about, he's 20 himself. He just turned 20 like 6 days ago or something. So it's like he's a young guy. I got him when he was 18, fresh off of high school, 4.0 student, completely different than me. Had his stuff together, but he had a full ride scholarship, all this stuff, and um, but to me, it's not about academic anything or I hire 1,000% just based off personality, skills, all that crap. Everything can be taught. He did pass the insurance test on the first try, which is pretty impressive. Is that all right? You are you are about it. But at the end of the day, it's about the personality, who they are inside, and if I call it the salsa, you have that fire, you have that
mm,
that thing that you can kind of see in certain people. You either want to do it or not, and I feel like that's a part of it, just an aspect of being a man, being a person, being a human, and who you want to be in life. They say that what you don't want to be is at your deathbed, look back and say, well, man, I should have tried that. I should have done this, or I should have done that more, or any of that. And that can play into your personal life, that can play into your business, that can play into whatever life aspect of your life. But I've always been the kind of person that thinks, at least has a level of moving the needle forward. Every generation moves. I see it as a ladder. Every generation moves the needle a little bit, and it's your job to figure out how big that next step is going to be, how far you're going to move that next generation forward. I don't consider myself being where I started as the base, like, because of me. That was because of my forefathers, my dad making that move and saying, I don't know anything about that country, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then his parents also moved from, southern Mexico and doing everything that they did. So everything has, consequences. And what are the consequences based off my decisions, and how is that going to affect the next generation? I have two girls, and number one, to mention that we don't want to get into politics too much. And the reason is there's just so much negativity, so much confrontation in that we're in that space. It makes it kind of it's depressing to think about what the future is going to look like for the next couple of generations. But at the same time, I feel like if I can just do a good enough job at what I can be to be a good person, to do the best that I can, and teach them that hard work and discipline and the right kind of action, being smart about your failures, all that stuff makes you a good individual, a good human. If they can just learn that from me and create their own step, I feel like I'm going to be a successful man at the end of the day. So, I don't know where I got sidetracked there, but yeah, it is about taking care of people, and I do think that allowing them to make those mistakes, and allowing the flexibility for them to create their own experiences, create their own relationships, create their own mess ups. All that is part of the game, and they learn because of it.
Yeah. You mentioned Mexico. I got to say, like, you mentioned your dad in Mexico, I should
Yeah.
say, but like, it intrigues me that people come from there. So I was in Mexico 2 days ago,
Oh,
and
really?
I went from Cabo, Mexico, where it's 80, 85 degrees, and then I come here and it's snowing last night, and I'm just like, what? How do, like, just the immigrant mind, I guess, is what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. Like, I see a better opportunity in this frozen tundra
Yeah.
Nebraska, and
Yeah.
make the jump.
It's
So
it's crazy, man, and I kind of I contribute to almost like a similar feeling as a entrepreneur, getting into the business world, not knowing shit.
yeah,
Especially in an industry that you're not very knowledgeable about. Your industry, you just kind of stepped into an industry and just
yeah.
kind of, but you knew systems, processes, kept things pretty basics, and just kind of ran things the way you thought it should be ran, and efficiency, effectiveness, right? Um, to be honest, when you jump into entrepreneurship, it's kind of like that. You don't see the whole thing. It's like being in the trenches. You're not looking at the whole map and seeing how the battle's being fought, right? You're in the trenches, you're fighting one man at a time. That's how I see a lot of life being, to where you don't get that luxury to look ahead. You don't get a luxury to look. You really, the biggest luxury is looking back and talking to individuals that are close to you and seeing how far you've come, and having a conversation about all the stuff that you've achieved. And if you played the right cards, man, you maybe that's the conversation that'll be, worth it. And I think that's what life's really about. Being successful. I think that's what it's about. It's not about the ones and zeros in your bank account. It's what you end up doing with your life, and how, flexible you have your life, and how much freedom you develop because of the decisions that you made. That's one of the reasons why I'm in the industry that I am, because that residual factor in the insurance industry creates that freedom, that flexibility in the future. It's based off a book of business, and that residual pays you every month once you get that machine going. Now, getting that machine going, it's an SOB. It's a hard task, and even though you know everything that you need to do, it's still a lot of work and a lot of dedication and a lot of stress to get things moving. I think in any industry, but especially in an industry where the payout is so small and it's over time, you really got to bet that your systems and processes are good. Otherwise, people will leave you right real quick. People aren't loyal anymore like they used to be. It's not like 15 years ago. I remember everybody, at least what I used to hear about insurance. Oh, I've been with State Farm for 16 years. I've been with Farmers for 25 years. There was a loyalty aspect to it. 2026, we got to understand that's not the reality anymore. People are going to be in a place that understands them, in a place that makes sense for them. And because of that, I think the shift in the industry is happening, and you have to be able to do a good job enough so that those clients stay in your world.
Do you think back in the old days, people didn't know there was as many options, and so people didn't have to treat them as well? And now that they understand the options, you almost have to be, you have to treat the person more like a person. I mean, lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Uh, do you think that is necessitating the shift in not only your industry, but I think industry as a whole?
I think that's part of it. I mean, the internet, things have really changed. More options. I mean, it hasn't just been that people weren't aware. There's just been more options created in the last 20, 30
Mm.
years. So that level of competition has really pushed for kind of a fork in the road, and to where people have had to make that decision and say, okay, where are the pros and cons of me staying with this company? Are they going to have my back? And I think that used to be more of the reality, those companies having people's back. And now when people are maybe getting screwed over or seeing and hearing about bad experiences, they're not so sure anymore that there is really any company that's going to have their back truly.
Hmm.
So it's better to just find the best situation for their specific situation, the best company for their situation, and find the best maybe agency that can help them and advise them, and help them find the right product for them. I think nowadays it's more about finding the right product that has the insurance coverage that they need at the right price, and mitigating the risk as much as possible, rather than just betting on a company and hoping that they're going to have your back at the end of the day. So we believe in that. We believe in the relationship aspect, and also communicate in 2026 level. We're not faxing things, and they're trying to do things as fast and efficiently as possible, talking to people how they want to talk. So
Yeah. I always find it interesting. I think people take the security of a job a little too serious. I don't think jobs are as secure as people think they are. And the company is going to make the best choice based on the company. And I don't mean it to sound negative or whatever, but like if you have 20 people working for you and I have to let one person go in order for the other 19 to survive, like that's just the decision. Like you see people cutting divisions or doing layoffs in the specific sector, but it's, yeah, so they let 200 people go, but so the other 800 people can continue to have a job and the business can stay fruitful for the most part.
yeah,
Sometimes
yep,
there's exceptions to everything, but yeah,
for the greater good.
I wish that people would have a different mindset when it comes to a job.
I
So
agree. I just had actually a personal experience with that. My mom, she got let go. She was working for a large company. I won't say the name, but just a really large company for 18 years or something like that. And her experience was that the same mentality of you know their security behind working a long time for a company that you trust, and then shows up to work one day, factory's closed. They were phenomenal company and everything, but just decided one day that place, all of a sudden, I don't know how many, maybe a couple hundred people that were there, from one day to another, it was closed and sold to another company. And it was going to be some severance pay and whatever, but that was it. Sorry and thank you. We
mhm.
appreciate you guys' last 17, 18 years. And it just kind of hits you like, we're talking, just kind of bucket of cold water. Like, okay, now what? I thought they had my back, right?
Mhm.
And that's not the case. That at the end of the day, every company's for profit. Now, I still consider them a great company, but at the end of the day, they're going to do the best that is in their interest, and not so much every single employee.
Yeah. So I think it's a great segue to mindset. I know you got a podcast that's
Yeah,
named
mindset
Mindset.
52.
So talk to me about your mindset shifting. Like you said, you were a little lost at 18, didn't know where you were going to go. And your mindset had to change multiple times along this path. So talk to me about how important you think mindset is in life and just in general.
I mean, I think that it's important to mature. Well, as you mature, you develop kind of what's important to you, and having the right kind of focus is essential for achieving your goals. I think that's what we're talking about. The biggest lessons that I got from the military was being able to really engage and dive into what I wanted to achieve, and figuring out that I had to put in the work to get there. So my mindset really changed at that moment, saying that maybe I'm not that dumb. Maybe it's just about me not being applied. And so I turned around and went to college, and you would know, getting my bachelor's, 3.9 GPA. All of a sudden, it's like, all right, this works. It's just effort, bro.
Hmm.
I'll get to work, and I put in the extra work. I was working nights and working everything that I could to make ends meet. You have mortgage, you have kids, you have all this stuff to take care of, right? GI Bill covers some stuff, but not everything. Um, so I think the mindset of, hey, hard work makes it does pay off, but again, maturity. So there's a new generation coming along right now, a new generation that is thinking the opposite, thinking that my generation, the millennial generation, that hard work and working your face into the dirt is the right way to do everything, is stupid. There's a new generation thinking that maybe a couple of smart TikToks is going to get me to become a millionaire, and maybe innovation takes the approach, the right approach. It takes the lead in your approach. And the mindset's more about being creative and being innovative and doing something that's a little bit different outside of the norm, and just doing it the right way that hits the right market and doing it right. And maybe with a little bit of luck, right? The the old millennial generation thinks that that's stupid. That's no, you got to work your ass off. And I think there's a happy medium.
Hmm.
And I think there's a space there for a lot of us to learn, because I don't think that necessarily you're going to get hit the lotto every time by doing the right TikTok. However, you can't be naive to think that you're going to work your face into the dirt and always be successful. You gotta, there's great books out there that talk about this, how to optimize your time and create your own world of flexibility. The 4 Hour Work Week is a phenomenal one by, is it Tim Ferriss, I think it is.
No.
There's some great people leading the way. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you might need to share that wheel with a different industry. And I feel like there's a lot of industries that are lacking in that. And if people could really shift that mindset and apply a lot of that, maybe some innovation and some creativity into what they're doing, man, the success. I always think about blue collar jobs, and if they could apply a lot of the sales tactics and operational systems and processes that the white collar jobs do, and just apply a little bit of that, a little bit of extra customer service instead of being so crafty and amazing at what they do, more people would know about how good they are, and they could take their business to another level. But it takes somebody applying that, putting that pressure and clicking on that button saying, hey, select all, copy, paste. And it takes that, and it's not always happening. And I feel the opportunity is there for a lot of people to do it. And once they figure it out, they usually make phenomenal companies, probably like yours.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, that's exactly what my playbook is like, how do I take a company that's been around for 19 years that does everything on pen and paper? There's no systems, no processes. Everybody's, I mean, lack of a better term, everybody's playing the hero. They're doing a couple $1 million a year. They're doing well. How do I take that and compete without changing? Because part of what makes that company good, Macintosh good, is it is the small town feel. It's not like we don't have an AI robot answering the phone. We have a person answering the phone.
Yeah,
But how do we use the systems and the processes and technology around that person to make his job more efficient? So, like, one of the things we're looking at is if he's on the phone and he misses a phone call, how do I keep you engaged?
yeah,
Well, we're going to send a text message and be like, "Hey, we were on the other line. We're gonna get back to you quickly." Well, how can I put AI into that? Okay, what are you calling for? So now AI could take a little simple things. What are you calling for? Oh, I got a plumbing leak. Can you take a picture of it and have it? So now when he gets out the phone, we have a picture of it.
tee
We
up,
know
bro.
we know it's a plumbing leak,
Yeah,
and you still got the personal side of it. And they didn't go over to the other plumbing company, and we lose out. I mean, it could have been a small job, could have
yeah.
been a huge job, but we don't want to lose out on that. So how do we do those little small things, but still keep it personal, still get our guy to answer the phone and give you that one-on-one? I don't care what they say about AI, it will never be
I agree.
the
Yeah,
human aspect. Like, it doesn't have feelings. It doesn't.
yeah.
It can't be real with you. So
I think that's 100% true. And how do you provide? It's an excellent example because how do you do that intricate dance between the two sides? On one side, you're right. You don't want to rip out the soul of the company. You want to make sure that it's still the company that it was and the great company that people got were used to connecting with. But how do you also not stay in the dust
Mhm.
and keep up with the the reality of 2026? You don't have to be the high tech, everything automated. That's not you, but how do you step ahead? How do you continue to move forward without falling behind? Now, some people say, oh, if you're not at the very top of the game, you are falling behind. I don't think so. I think there's a big balance that you can play in the middle and be very successful, and without ripping the soul out of the company. And I think that part, that soul, I think that's part of sometimes some certain companies' success, especially in companies or industries that people expect a personality. And I feel that there's so much blue collar operations in that space. And blue collar operation, I feel like you have to have a little bit of a soul. Otherwise, it just doesn't feel correct. Doesn't feel right. Now, maybe that'll change over time, and things will start, being more and more automated. But I agree with you. I don't think the AI is forever gonna, just take over one day.
Yeah, I'm really bullish on blue collar work. Like AI can take over a lot of the white collar stuff.
Yeah,
They can start writing programs and they can start,
I
you
could
know,
see it taking over a lot of insurance.
really.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see a company figuring that, and I'm sure they're already working on it. The big companies, and again, you can't take all the personal feeling. There's a level, I guess, of what we do that is not tangible. That you need to have trust in somebody. But I feel that maybe 50 years down the line, maybe a lot of that need for a physical aspect, that trust in an agent might become less and less important.
Yeah, I mean, they should say that we're looking into software for our inventory management. And so you can have, so you got five different um, f- similarity for you, like different, whatever you call it, like insurance companies that you go
Carriers,
to,
yeah, carriers.
carriers. So, say, so we have five of them, and we need a quote for uh, whatever the part is, a hot
Mm,
water heater.
sure.
So we'll send, hey, we're looking for a 40-gallon hot water heater, natural gas, and it will send to all five of them.
Yeah.
And then they'll all come back and tell us this is the cheapest one. And it will auto select based on, you can put criteria in there. I'm pretty sure you can do both delivery date and price and all that stuff. And then it'll auto select. So I'm sure there's probably something similar in
Yeah, yeah,
your area.
we have a rater as well, so we have a ton of different options, and those are all sifted through with a rater system that kind of pushes out the information to all of them at the same time. We can then dissect and see what's best for their situation, for the individual that we're working with. But yeah, I mean that's a lifesaver, and I think that's probably going to take even a step further. I mean, if you start just thinking about AI in itself and what makes me as an individual special. Well, number one is my voice. Number two is my experience and expertise. Number three is my personality. Now, what's something that AI is starting to do is it's starting to replicate my voice. It can replicate my voice already. Shit, it can actually replicate my face. And if it can replicate my face and my voice, and it can learn what maybe the most important points of an insurance agent are, and I guess some of my knowledge base, maybe not to the exact 100%, experience, and maybe the human factor will be out of it, but I think it can get pretty damn close to being replicating an agent. Now, when it comes to actually regulators and Department of Insurance and regulations, all that stuff, it gets kind of tricky because how do you regulate an AI system? I don't know, but that's still to be determined. And whatever company can figure that out and replicate 50 JRs to do what I do, man, that'll be the day. That will be the unlock key to where somebody thinks it's that good that it thinks it's me, and it's actually talking an AI version of me. I think that's it. Maybe I just wrote up $1 million idea for somebody, but I'm sure these companies, there's no way they're not having these conversations and have been for the last couple of years. I'm sure there's industries that are already dabbling in it, and I think it's more the legalities more than anything. And because the AI systems themselves are becoming ever more better. I mean, every 3 months it feels like there's a new one that comes out, and you're just like, holy crap! When they got Maduro, the dancing memes and everything that came out of that, I was just like, oh my god,
I
like it
did.
looks so real.
I lost my mind. They had I watched a few of them,
Yeah.
but because he's in the same jail as P. Diddy. Dude,
You
I
can't
watched
help
those
them.
videos.
No matter what way political, it's like, oh my god, when people are
Dude, it
so
was so
creative.
funny.
But
That's
it's so real, man. It's like eventually you'll. I mean, if this has happened, I feel like the last 3 years, maybe the last 2 years, really. Imagine in 6 years.
yeah.
Holy crap, man. Where are we going to be with this technology? So I think it'll take over a lot of those, non tangible. You can't go fix a water heater.
Hmm.
You can't lay, I mean, at least I don't know how they would figure that out, but there's still a physical aspect you're going to get in a lot of industries that you can't touch with AI. Uh, so I think a lot of those industries are safe, but a
Yeah.
lot of administrative stuff, a lot of little, it's just, especially when it comes to creativity and marketing, a lot of that stuff's going to be gone.
Do you think it'll take the creativity aspect out of it? Because, like, I'll go back to the P. Diddy and
Right.
Maduro. Like, someone still thought of that.
Yeah.
Do you think AI is going to start coming up with ideas like that, or no?
I think there's already an aspect of that. I think you could already. I mean, you could already ask. Already asked ChatGPT, "Hey, create me 7 different ideas for this," and it'll do a lot of that creativity, the job for me.
Hmm.
So I think there's a level that I don't think it'll ever be as human as a human, but I think it could get damn close. And it's scary to think, how that world would look like. I mean, I couldn't even imagine seeing what we're seeing now 5 years ago. If you would have told me 5 years ago, I'd be like, I don't know, man, or maybe 10, 20 years from now. But it happened in a couple of years, it felt
Well,
like.
it's crazy because, like, when I was a kid, Terminator 2 came out.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh, that'll never happen." And then The Matrix came out. People are like, "Oh, that's never gonna happen." And now we're like, "Crap."
Now Elon is coming up with some,
Yeah,
some house robots and stuff.
maybe it already happened. I don't know.
No, I think he's trying to sell them for like $20,000, $30,000 a pop for have a little maid. It's crazy, man. I mean, technology, but again, I don't think it'll ever take away fully human aspects. I take it back. Previously I said something about like marketing. It'll completely take over. I think there'll still be a sense of management that'll have to be,
Hmm.
present. But it'll definitely thin out the amount of labor requirement that's out there for a lot of these industries. It might just be one individual. We already see this to an extent. We see this with remote workers and VAs. To where instead of having 30 specialists here in America, I mean, a lot of people are doing that and utilizing virtual assistants from other places to find things more affordably,
Yeah.
and where instead of working with 10 people and paying them US salaries, you're working with 20 people in another place, paying a quarter of that, and then just managing everything that you're putting them to do. And that's kind of, I feel like, the idea behind AI. Now, I think AI does take things to one level higher, and to where that creativity aspect is starting to be applied by the AI itself. The systems themselves are starting to be creative and understanding and thinking for themselves. And that's where I think it kind of gets a little scary to where, well, if they can think of, I guess, creative ways to do this and this and this, and you can ask it. I don't know. You can just go right down a rabbit hole with that, but where that ends, I don't know. Who knows? And I just think it's going to be an interesting world watching technology develop over the next 8, 10 years.
Yeah, it's changed so much in what's been 2 years roughly
It's
since
crazy.
ChatGPT came out. So, uh, I want to hear more. I mean, I know a little bit about your podcast, but you kind of have a different, interesting take on it. And like you said, you gastro in whatever. I'm not going to try to say the word, but you had like stuff like that on there, and
I mean, I had to look up some stuff before I met up with the doctor because I just didn't want to sound dumb. But Yeah, I'm trying my podcast, my 52. It's all about bringing in different thought leaders and business owners and professionals and just just high level individuals, whoever I can bring in that has an interesting story and can talk to me about how they've applied discipline to making themselves and effective individuals in life. And some people have, it's all different kinds of people. I've had Rosendo Robles, which just recently opened up the entrance for Bud Crawford at his last fight. He was there a couple months after. I was like, holy shit, you're you're on that stage. It's kind of cool, after he was on my podcast. That was pretty legit. Two other individuals that are professionals, like the gastroenterologist.
Hmm.
Uh, he was phenomenal. I mean, the information that he was talking about, some of it was flying over my head, but it's cool having those conversations with individuals that are just so into their craft and understand things at such a high level. They're experts. There's sincere experts at what they do. Had Lisa Tavazon, the owner of a title company, Unity Title. Phenomenal individual. Been in the business for years and understands her craft just to the T. Real estate professionals that are just crushing it. One guy using his influence with TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, crushing it on that side and using that to create search engine optimization for his business and just crushing it also on that side. And so you see the opportunities in every single aspect of these guys' different careers. And it just, to me, it's motivating. It's exciting. It creates a level of, I don't know, just excitement for the future. That people are still getting after it and making things happen and working their asses off to make ends not just meet, but going above and beyond.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you've listened to other podcasts
Yeah,
outside of yours. What is better, sitting down at a table one on one, having a podcast and building the relationship, or listening to the podcast?
I personally like the individual aspect. I'm a very individual, like or interactional person.
Yeah.
I like having that fluid relationship conversation and getting to know you on an individual basis. It's how I treat my business. We're talking about how do you separate yourself from the process as the CEO, as a business owner, as a leader, to make the process work better for your company. That's how it starts. You got to separate yourself. You got to, in essence, fire yourself from the operation to be able to grow, and hire somebody and expect them to do the job equally, hopefully, as good as you did. And if you find a good person, fuck, don't let him go.
Yeah.
But if thinking of that in that sense and thinking in that way, I think you can. My business has grown the most when I have stepped away and really focused on what makes our clock tick, what makes our the needle move, and that is relationships. And because of that, I have a soft space in my heart to creating relationships is really the driver of everything in my business world. So to me, going and meeting somebody face to face, having a conversation, or maybe virtually, but having that conversation with that individual and interacting information, getting to know the individual, getting to know at the human level, I feel like that's the best way that I can figure out how I can serve and we can figure out a way to collaborate.
You think podcasting does that for you guys,
I
or?
think podcasting definitely creates a great space for you to meet this individual, uh, create an understanding of what they are doing. Also, it meshes spheres, the sphere
Hmm.
of influence that you have and I have. It helps with a lot of that growth. And to where maybe I can help somebody else that is in your sphere, you can help somebody else that is in my sphere, whether it's just by the information that you're giving in the podcast itself or by the products and services that you provide. So, I mean, there's an array of things, but I do think that relationships make the world go round. And as much as AI is in the middle of everything, and all this technology is ever more advancing, really relationships is what makes things move. And that's why I really appreciate the podcast side because you get to individually know somebody a lot more intimately.
Yeah.
It's not just a little snippet. It's a full understanding of how they talk, how they communicate, how they carry themselves, and what they've done to apply themselves to become the person that they are.
Yeah. I agree completely. Like the more I think about it, the more I watch a lot of podcasts, but I truly think, and maybe because I just have to pay attention more, having a conversation. Because like podcast just playing in the background, I kind of doze off and
Yeah,
not pay attention. But like I get so much out of these, and um, it it just gets my wheels turning.
yeah,
And like, oh, he's doing this. Well, how can I utilize that in my business? And just little things like that.
so useful.
It's so useful. It
Yeah.
just opens up everything. So I know you gotta go get your daughters here in a little bit, but what we kind of talked about your podcast. Dropped the name a couple times. Where can you find it? Where how can they find you? What's kind of the
Yeah.
story there?
So it's at M52 Podcast. Mindset 52 is the name. Mindset 52 on YouTube.
What's the 52?
52 is 52 weeks out of the year. So
Okay.
just staying consistent and working through, again, 1 week at a time, doing what you do, the values that you hold dear and near, and what makes you be who you are. I feel like you have to do that consistently. It's not just a 3-month project and you're done. I mean, maybe in certain situations, perhaps, but I think it's a consistent thing, and you got to keep it going. And I think only the when you look back and you look at people that you feel like, man, this guy's crushed it, or he's doing good at whatever it is. There's a long story behind their success. I've learned to really understand and appreciate that. That typically overnight successes are not overnight, and what people see on the front comes with a ton of work and sacrifice and effort that nobody ever high fived them for.
Oh,
So to me, it's a appreciation of that in essence, and that those 52 weeks, man, you got to make every single one of those count. Sometimes, like we talked about, you do have to step back, give yourself grace, allow yourself to breathe so that you can come back a little stronger. And that's part of the process, I feel. But you have to be able to create that space in the first place, and that comes with a lot of work and a lot of the right mentality, because you will be innovative. Again, talking about the differences in opinion and how to become successful, you do have to be innovative. You do have to try things. You do have to go through all these battles and fail the most to win. But you also have to be smart about things and do the right, learn from those mistakes and create the right approach. Because if you just, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and
yeah.
over. You don't want to be that individual that just keeps failing. You gotta be able to learn from the mistakes. I think that was a great saying. I don't remember who said it, but it says, if you, I think it's Patrick and David. It says, if you're walking through a field and you step on a pile of shit, well, you're just the guy that stepped on a pile of shit. But on the way back, you step on the pile of shit again, then you're just a freaking idiot. You better be able to learn from those mistakes, man. So I love Patrick and David. So
Yeah.
some of those things that you learn, you hear from other individuals, can be easily attained as well and through other podcasts based on the experiences. Man, it's like reading a book. You can find out pretty much anything if you just read the right book,
Hmm.
and it's already been experienced. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Listen to the right person, take those shortcuts, and learn from those other people's mistakes.
Yeah. Well, sir, I really appreciate it and appreciate getting to know you this past hour or so, hour and 15 minutes that we've been going. Um, yeah, look forward to getting to know you better over the next period of time, and I really appreciate you coming through.
I appreciate it, Ryan.
So,
Appreciate it.
thanks, sir.
Absolutely.